Hey everyone, welcome to Ian and Friends of Vuelta a España edition. I am FloBikes Senior Editor Ian Dille.
And I am Michael Sheehan, Ian's friend. Today we are going to talk about what we just saw in Stage 4 of the Vuelta a España, the first real GC climbing day mountaintop finish. How did it shake up?
Yeah, so the big news of the day was this breakaway. It got out to almost 10 minutes, and American Ben King had quite a day. We'll get to his result in a second, but they rolled off the front with 3K to go, and no GC team really looked, and I guess no team in general really looked like they were interested in taking control of this race. Team Sky kind of looked like they look, in week 3 of the Tour de France. They doesn't appear like they came to this race with serious GC ambitions. No other team was really interested in going for the stage. I don't know. It was really hot. It was like they were like, if you guys want to roll off the front and ride 100 miles by yourself, go for it.
Yeah, breakaway, like you said, went really, really early. And I've got to just say, Ben King, he is one of the riders. He really, really knows how to just look through a race book, earmark which days a breakaway has a good chance at succeeding on, and he will always find himself in that breakaway. So wasn't a big surprise to see Ben up in the break today. What was a surprise is just how really passively Team Sky rode it, and I think every other team was kind of content and used to seeing Team Sky on the front of a stage in a Grand Tour, and they figure, okay, Team Sky's just going to hit it on the final climb, gap's going to go down at 7 minutes over 10K, and then we'll have a bike race. That really didn't happen. It was a day for the breakaway.
Yeah, and Ben King was just totally on point all day. You could tell that he was going for the stage today. Finishing climb, it was on paper about 12 kilometers uphill. The real climb was about 8K, averaged around 5% gradient. He was on his climbing bike, not his Cervelo aero bike today, which I think, when you're going for the win, the all-day breakaway on the uphill finish, you want the lightest bike you can get. And it came in handy because, it was really in the last 200 meters that, that he took the stage. But where he was really on point was when the break started to lose cohesion. It was at that when they got their maximum advantage. They had like 9 minutes and 45 seconds. Yeli Walays from Lado Sudal started skipping some turns. Nobody was really interested in working together in the break, and it was King who really went out on the attack, forced the final selection of 3 riders. Pierre Roland was left in the back group, probably the strongest climber in the group from EF Education First. He had to do a lot of work once they got to the climb to try and close the gap back to Ben King, and by the time he finally got there, King was on the attack again.
Yeah, I think that Pierre Roland was really the big loser of the day. On paper, he was the best climber in the breakaway, but he just got caught out, didn't want to make his way, drag a whole bunch of other breakaway companions back up to King. And when he finally got clear and tried to bridge back up, it was just too little, too late. Ben King, he didn't make it look easy. It was really, really hot out there. If you see some close-ups of the stage of Ben King driving on the front and up the final climb, he is just sweating buckets, and the heat plays all different effects on all different riders. Ben King obviously was just comfortable enough to make it happen.
Yeah, and I just want to fanboy on Ben King a little bit. I mean, this was a classic Ben King victory. I mean, this is a guy that won the U.S. Pro National Championship when he was still an under 23 rider on Bontrager Livestrong.
8 years ago.
Yeah, but that was a similar race where he attacked from the line, was in the break all day, got out to like a 12-minute lead, and won the stage. So it's definitely right up his alley. I mean, he's a guy, we've seen some of his power files where he'll ride at 4 hours at 300 plus watts by himself, in the mountains of Virginia where he hails from. So he is a guy to just be the strongest rider out in the front in the wind all day. And I was really on pins and needles at the end. He was off the front with the Astana rider Nikita Stalnav from Kazakhstan, and he starts sitting on in the last K and flattened out a little bit. I think it just proves how confident he was that he was going to win this bike race.
It was a really, really tactical final kilometer. Right as they went under the Flamme Rouge, Stalnov tried to flick Ben through, and Ben just said, no way. So that really, it was very, very tense for the final kilometer. Pierre Rolland was making his way back up to those two. As they were really stalling out, Stalnov didn't want to give Ben King a strong lead out. However, Ben was just, the fastest person in the final 200 meters, and he played it absolutely perfectly. Not to take anything away from Ben, but there was another American that I really want to talk about in this bike race, because it was just something I personally don't think I've seen in a very long time. Sep Kuss, back in the GC group, him and his Lotto NL Jumbo team really took charge on the final climb, and Sep, who is in his really third year racing road bikes, he dropped Vincenzo Nibali. He had Fabio Aru dangling off the back of the GC group. That was one of the biggest rides I've ever seen in the closing stages of a Mountain Grand Tour stage. From an American in a long time.
Yeah, Lotto really was the team to take control of this race once they hit the final climb. And they came here with a really strong team. Obviously, Sep just coming off his big win at the Tour of Utah. George Bennett, Steven Kreiswick. They're pretty loaded with climbing and GC talent at this race. But yeah, to see Sep, in his first year on the World Tour, putting the hurt to the rest of the field, at a Grand Tour is pretty incredible. He has had a pretty rough introduction to the World Tour. If you look at his results from this spring, it's a lot of DNFs and kind of third page of the results sheet type of results. But he really turned things around in the Dauphiné, came back to the U.S., got in some good training in Durango, and it's obviously paid off. He seems to have his sea legs under him.
Yeah, he just won Tour of Utah in really dominating fashion. I don't want to discount that race, but we see a lot of Americans win Tour of Utah, and then they really just don't do, and really racing in America in general, and then they just can't really replicate it in World Tour races in Europe. I think that my biggest takeaway from this stage is Sep has got what it takes to race in Europe, and I am really, really excited to see what he does in the next few years.
Yeah, we'll see. This is his first Grand Tour, so we'll see how he hangs in there. Remember, we're in stage 4 of 21, so it'll be interesting to see if he can hang in till week 3. But regardless, I think this is a great experience for him. And yeah, whatever he does next, maybe the World Championships, who knows? It's good to see him getting some airtime, building some confidence.
Yeah, so after Sep really just manhandled the GC group in the final few kilometers of the last climb today, he pulled off with about 3K to go roundabout, and the GC group just fizzled out. There was not much attacking. We saw Miguel Angel Lopez sneak off, Emmanuel Buchmann, and Alejandro Valverde got clear in the few, final few hundred meters, but
some guy we named Adam Yates that we talked a lot about in May. It seemed like Lotto almost set him up for this attack. Sep pulls off, and I think Yates didn't even want to go. We saw him attacking early and often in the Giro, and then fizzle out in the last week, spectacularly. But he obviously just felt so good. And excuse me, it was Simon Yates.
It was Simon Yates. They look remarkably similar.
They must be related.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but Simon Yates was really the one who took advantage of it. He just counterattacked Lotto pretty brilliantly, and really, unfortunately, Kreiswick and George Bennett, who Sep was riding for, just didn't really do much. Kwiatkowski, he was isolated. Team Sky really just left Kwiatkowski hanging. They don't have their A-team really here to defend a leader's jersey in a Grand Tour, so not really sure what Team Sky's 3-week plan is, but right now it does not look like Kwiatkowski really has the team to back him up. Simon Yates, obviously still really, really good legs. The rest of the GC riders, though, they just look kind of hot, tired, and
it was really hot out there. Nobody really looked interested in racing too hard up this final climb. except for one of my dark horse picks, Emmanuel Bookman from Bora Hansgrohe. He was only a few seconds behind Simon Yates. What is he sitting?
He's second overall now.
Yeah. So yeah, he's looking great. Bora actually has a really strong GC team here with Rafael Maica, Davide Formulo. So it could be his real breakout Grand Tour ride. He was 15th at the Tour de France in his first crack at it a couple years ago. Top 10 in every week-long World Tour stage race he's done this year. So.
Yeah, really, if anything, from the last few kilometers that we saw today, it is a pretty wide open race for the Red Leaders jersey at this Vuelta. There's no clear dominant team, which is really refreshing after Team Sky just taking the other two Grand Tours this year.
Yeah, a lot of the GC contenders that we thought were going to be at the top of the results sheet are not. Richie Porte, Vincenzo Nibali, Thibaut Pinot still in the running, Rigoberto Urán is still in the running. But a lot of the big names, Dan Martin is like 16 minutes down or something like that. So, it seems like a lot of GC riders are sort of using this race as an extended training camp for Worlds, and we'll probably see them hunting stages later on in this race, maybe even tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's on tap.
Yeah, what are we looking at? We're looking at a lumpy stage.
Yeah, with it's a category 2 climb, comes up like 38K from the finish. That's kind of the real obstacle on the day. And then a descent down to the finish. So it's, I think it's definitely going to be another day for the breakaway, but with so many, GC riders already so far down, it'll be interesting to see who goes in the breakaway. It may even be a day for Peter Sagan.
Peter Sagan, he could go in the breakaway, try to win from that. It's a really good stage for him, unless GC riders decide to race this final Cat 2 climb, because if there are fireworks going up that Cat 2 climb, you have a descent, and then off the descent, it's about 10K into the finish. The field could really blow up then, or if we see some more passive racing like we saw today, it's going to be a great chance for a real all-around quick guy like Peter Sagan.
Yeah, and the next GC day isn't really until Sunday with the above category climb to La Cobalita. So, there's a lot of wiggle room here over the next few days until we kind of see big GC fireworks again. So, stay tuned. FloBikes live and on demand in Canada, and we'll be back with another edition of Ian and Friends Vuelta España edition soon.
Thank you for joining.